And while we're at it, I'd love you to analyze the chart on weed because you are like describing exactly what happened in the chart.
Yeah,
So the ticker's weed.
I definitely traded every single weed stock that's out there. So
Oh, Canopy.
Yeah. Canopy.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
lost. This was my biggest loss for years. It was like
really,
$1,000 or 12. I lost like $200, I think, in 2017, and I took $1,000 loss in 2018. And this was one of the biggest lessons I learned. This was the only time I got into a stock, not because I knew anything at all about it. It was because my best friend was in it. And he was making a ton of money. So,
so you just bought it.
So I hate to say it, but weed was my second best gainer of all time, besides Neo. Neo's number one. Nvidia may overtake that, but yeah, pop it up. Take it off log. I think that would just give us some real context.
oops. All right, here we go. The monthly.
Gotta drag that guy, make it super small. Maybe you can.
That's the monthly.
This is the monthly. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Super ugly, man.
yeah, it's an ugly chart. Real ugly. I don't even know if it's gonna bounce there off. What is that? What's that line? That blue line? Is that the 50?
50.
month?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look,
That's.
look at this declining volume too.
I mean, there's not like if you look at the volume profile, there's not like a ton of weight above it, but like most of your weight's like kind of around where the price is now, which is good. But I mean, that's still like, there's still a lot of people that would have bought into those highs that are just waiting for any opportunity to get out, especially something like this. Like the more volatile these things get too, like, when you have those really sharp drops, it doesn't give people a chance to get out. So then you get panicked, and then that's when you get people selling even more aggressively into all the spikes.
So guys, how would you feel if you were a holder of Canopy, like you're a big holder, and day after day this thing is making new lows, and you just see the market just edging higher day after day, making new highs, all-time highs? Wouldn't you just feel impatient to just want to sell your stock and just jump into something going up?
100%. Yeah, that's the thing though, right? Is like that's why when you get a chart like this, it's so hard for it to go up because, like I can't see the dollar values on this thing, but like, if it pops up, like you have one big green day where maybe it goes up like, 20% or 30%. I mean, you might have just been sitting there doing exactly what you're saying, Brandon, just like, waiting and waiting, going like, Jesus, this thing is still down. And then all of a sudden you're just so frustrated with it. You get one day where it pops up. So you're taking a little bit of your loss off the table and you just say, screw it, I'm out of here, and you sell everything, right? That's why these things are so hard to climb back up.
Down 60% since February.
Yeah, and like look at that big wick. Like I mean, there's people that 100% bought right at the very top because they thought it was going to break those old highs, right?
And there's all these people selling them their bags.
Yeah, that's why you have that huge top wick, right? Is because everybody they let it go as high as it could right to those previous highs, and then as soon as you saw some weakness, everybody sold. That's why you get that massive top wick because everybody's just bailing.
So the interesting thing is that institutions were burnt in this pretty severely. Now, I don't want to say necessarily Canopy, but a lot of the other smaller ones, in the same way that a lot of institutions were burnt with crypto in the last couple months, because there becomes this notion that a sector is too big not to own. So when you're a portfolio manager or you're, an institutional manager, you have to really stay disciplined. And that's one of the great things about like when you want to pick a portfolio manager, to make sure you have someone that, is just super strong, someone that's not gonna, fall for something like this. Because the media just pumps it, being like, if you don't get into crypto, you are not going to be a part of the new financial revolution. And the
Yeah.
same thing with weed, right? At the end of the day, the way that I look at it is there's some great opportunities. Like you could probably show me some really cool graphs on like THC use and all the ailments that it helps and everything else. But at the end of the day, it's still a commodity. Like you're still growing a crop. And like, the production of that goes higher, and you've seen it in Colorado, like the value that you can sell a gram of weed for goes a lot less, right? The more you produce.
Yeah, I know. Like, I remember, like, because I never bought any of the weed stores for like a long-term thing, but I traded all of them like as they were going up and down. And I remember like one of the biggest reasons I didn't want to buy it, like leading into when it was actually legalized, like here in Canada and everything, was because from everything I was reading, I don't remember the exact numbers, but basically like the amount of weed that they were going to be able to produce was significantly more than what they expected the usage was going to be. So like in my head, I was thinking we're going to have this massive oversupply and surplus of weed that nobody's going to be able to use. So like my theory was as soon as it basically got legalized, like very quickly after, it's just going to tank because everybody's going to realize that once they see those revenue numbers starting to come out versus production, and that's like pretty much what happened. So
Like,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead, Ben.
no,
Oh,
you go.
I just wanted to add, I don't think, and even I didn't see this coming, but like the home growing thing, I didn't see that becoming a thing, but apparently that's like
I
really
didn't
popular
see
now.
that coming either, man.
yeah, I know like a lot of people that do that now because you grow. I think every like here in Canada, like one person can have like 2 or 3 plants, and like if
No,
you
so I
isn't it?
visited my best friend. I visited my best friend. I was shocked. So I forgot what his prescription was, but I think he could have like 6 plants per gram. So if his doctor prescribed him 3 grams a day, he's got 18. He's got 18 plants at home.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
He's got 3 tenths.
And like think about how much you can get with that, right? You have a couple seeds and the things just grow, right? I mean, like
Dude, who
you
needs
have to buy.
3 tenths of weed plants?
Well, he's used to smoke 30,000 a year worth, and that was buying
Oh,
prescriptions. So yeah,
Oh, wow.
so
that's yeah. So he's saving a lot of money now, I guess.
yes, he is. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
but
really think the thing that these marijuana bulls were sort of banking on was federal legalization in the US. And if you would have listened to all of the news articles on CNBC and everything else, marijuana should have been federally legalized in 2018. Here we are halfway through 2021, and I'm not even sure what the prospects of that are looking like. Just because so that they can get all like the banking acts and that you can like, you can't even have a US company trade on a US exchange. All of
Yeah.
the marijuana companies that are trading on the NASDAQ, like Tilray or Canopy, whatever, those are Canadian companies.
Yeah.
So you can find US companies, but they're traded on the TSXV, I believe, the venture exchange or the
ventures, yeah.
CSV. And these aren't liquid. Nobody knows about them. They're good companies. And maybe there's going to be an opportunity for them to get uplisted, but that could be years away. And maybe there's an opportunity here. Maybe, a couple hundred episodes from now, we'll be doing the sort of cannabis segment, but not sure if that's right now.
Yeah,
The
it was
whole
like
thing
like
about the war
one
on
of the
drugs.
one of the stocks I was swinging earlier this year was it was Indus was the company. They're in California.
Yeah.
And then their cannabis company, they have like they're really great company. Like they're in the States and they
Indus
have like
Holdings, right?
beverages. Yeah. So they have like beverages, food, like they do all kinds of stuff in all different areas. So it's a solid company. And it was like the time it was like $1.50 a share or something. So I bought a whole whack load of that. And no, it went up. So I bought a whole bunch of that, and then it spiked up to like $2.50 pretty quick. So I sold like 90% of my position. I was going to buy back some lower, so it dropped all the way back down to like $1.70. Then I bought a little bit more, and like basically the thesis behind it was that like I was kind of just waiting to see how it went with Biden and everything coming in, like with how he was going to like react to the federal legalization and stuff, and then it just kind of got lost in the woodwork. So then like at that point it popped back up to like $2 a share. I just took everything off, and now I think it's like it trades under LOWL as the ticker now. Like it got bought up by Lowell, I think is another company.
Yeah,
But
so Lowell Farms, right?
yeah, it's basically just kind of like just drifting off to nothing right now because I mean they could get a big order and it could just shoot to the moon. But like I'm not gonna hold an investment hoping on an
Interesting thing
order.
about Indus that you may not know. So you said you got in at like 150, right?
Yeah.
So I can't give you an exact number, but I believe the number they went IPO at was like 450 or 5. It was a lot
Oh,
higher. So that thing when IPO, they raised a lot of institutional money. I mean, these are the things you got to stay far away from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had some crazy price, and I believe they did the financing like sometime in 2018, like during like the very, very, very peak. And then it took a few months for that thing to get listed. And then by the time it had its first trade, I'm not sure whatever price it was at, 250, $1.50, whatever, but it was already significantly lower than what the institutions got in at.
Mm. Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
all I know about Indus because I was following it way back when. I don't
yeah.
follow it today because what would the purpose of that be? But it's not even like a specific to like one company. Like if you look at all of the other big IPOs, like the big hypey cannabis IPOs, like they're significantly lower than what the institutions paid for them at.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that was just kind of just across the board, right? Because like you said, I mean, until it's federally legal, like that's when the narrative might shift a little bit. But until that point, I mean, you're basically just, holding and hoping, and that's holding and hoping is never a good investment strategy.
Never.
Just-
That's not even a strategy.
Why are you laughing, David?
No, I just had a funny thought. It's because you actually looked at some fundamental information to get to decide whether or not you were going to stay or buy more or whatever. But usually you just look at a chart, but like, yeah, fuck this thing, like, or like short it or like whatever.
I was holding it for longer than a few days. So I was like, I probably know something. I should probably at least know the name of the company,
So that's your threshold. After a few days, like, all right, fuck it, let's.
Once I know the name of the company, I feel like I know everything I need to.
That's awesome.
Brendan's
That's
over
awesome.
there just like these fucking guys.
Brandon's over like, have you seen my
No,
library?
that's what I absolutely love about this show. I love how we all come to the same conclusions a lot of the time, but we got a short-term guy here, we got more of like a medium-term, like swing trader type guy, and then we have a long-term guy here, and we all follow technical analysis, which is great because it's a discipline that a lot of people don't use, or they say that they know it, but they really don't. And we incorporate fundamentals, we incorporated quantitative research and everything else. And we really agree on a lot of things. We disagree on some things, but it's great that even though we come from completely different backgrounds, that we often are able to come across the same conclusions.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing I like too is like anytime any of us are looking at a chart, we can just like send it to our group because I know all three of us use different ways of finding our levels. Like David loves Fibonacci. Like, I know that Brendan, you love, your moving averages and just your straight like horizontal levels. Like I'm a big horizontal level guy myself, and I like the line chart, which I know neither of you guys use. And we'll send something out there. Won't tell each other like what we're thinking. We'll all have like a number in our head, and then we'll say, where do you think it's gonna go? And usually we're all within like a pretty small margin of each other. And if one of us is way out, then we kind of have the ability to reassess and say, okay, well, we're usually all pretty on point with our target. So what's going on here? Maybe there's something we're missing.